We're going to sing Nearer My God to Thee, a beautiful hymn based on Jacob's dream in Genesis 28. In that chapter, Father Isaac called his son Jacob and told him to go into the land of Padan Aram to get him a wife. And that whole parable, that whole chapter is a parable, and for a couple chapters, it's a parable speaking of Christ leaving the kingdom of heaven and coming into this world to gather his elect to him. And on the first night, we read of Jacob. When it gets dark, he has this dream. We read in verse 11 of Genesis 28, and he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. That word pillow literally means at his head. This is parabolic. The stone would represent Christ at his head. Then we read in verse 12 that he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And John 1:51 helps us to understand what's going on there. That's when Christ met Nathanael, and he told Nathanael that he would see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man. This is a representation of salvation. For years we listened to Mr. Camping tell us that upon salvation we are taken up into the kingdom of heaven, and yet we're dispatched back to this earth. We had a commission during the day of salvation. In verse 13 of Genesis 28, we read, and behold, Jehovah stood above it and said, I am Jehovah God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And then we read in verse 16 of Genesis 28, and Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, surely Jehovah is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, which means the house of God. But the name of that city was called Luz at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall Jehovah be my God, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. And it's a long story. It goes on for a couple of chapters, but we know at the end of that story, Jacob returns into the land of Canaan with his 2 wives and his 2 concubines and his flocks and his herds, and at that point 11 sons and a daughter, a picture of the Lord Jesus Christ bringing his elect from the promised land into the promised land from the world. Nearer my God to thee.
Though it be
There